The Carl B. Phillips Show.
Hosted by me, Carl B. Phillips, Uncle Carl.
The Carl B. Phillips Show.
Get ready for another great conversation on the Carl B. Phillips Show. Welcome to the Carl B. Phillips Show. Uncle Carl, my guest today, even though we're not far apart in age, I still call him my nephew. His name is Ernest J. Lee, a Detroit, Michigan native, currently living in Atlanta, Georgia. He is a multifaceted creative whose work ethic has him in high demand. I like how he said that. He's a producer and songwriter who has written and produced songs for many top artists from the gospel, R&B, and pop genres. Please help me welcome to the Carl B. Phillips Show again, my nephew, Ernest J. Lee. What's up, nephew?
Sir. What's going on, man? It's so good to be with you, man. You know, this is always a pleasure and an honor to talk to you, man. You're such a person that's encouraging, a person that's always opening doors to people, man. So it's always good to talk to you, man. You're always positive. I love it.
Oh, man, I appreciate you saying that. Now, when I do interviews, man, I like to throw some questions in that you didn't expect.
Okay.
So my first question, before we start, if you lost your cell phone, how many numbers could you remember by heart?
Well, see, this is the thing. I'm an account major now. You know, music is my passion, but my smarts is in numbers, so I'll probably remember a good number. So I would say probably good 50.
Good 50. Oh, you got me beat, man. if it ain't a number you had back in the 80s, I'm done.
Well, yeah, let's see, that's the thing. Not and that will, so it would be relative, but yeah, I would say a good 50 of the people that that I know for sure.
Wow, yeah. you got me beat because I may know two numbers because people, they don't pay their bills and they change numbers and stuff, and I can't keep up with it.
Right. Right.
We have known each other for years. I remember the first time seeing you were playing organ for Bishop Wayne T. Jackson, Great Faith. You was just a little kid sitting on the organ playing.
Yes.
Talk about your beginning and your introduction to being a musician.
I grew up in a house that had music. No one in my immediate family plays music, but they were musical as far as playing music. My dad would clean up the house, listen to the Whispers and Motown, the Temptations and stuff like that. My mom liked to dance, before she came on in the Holiness. Y'all say y'all still dance, y'all just changed partners, but before she changed partners, she danced. So they played music a lot. So when I was 7 years old, I was beating on stuff around the house. Well, actually, so about 5 years, I was beating on cans at my grandmama's. So I was beating on like the canned goods, and she told my mom, she said, "Yeah, Nell, you need to pay attention to that." So a couple years later, they got me drums at 7, and I started playing it with the radio. We had the hi-fi stereo back in the day. Telling my age, we had the hi-fi stereo. So we would play. I would play with the songs, and then a couple years later, when I turned around 10. That same hi-fi will be like on the edge of it, like I was playing, like it was just like for real, not even exaggerating. And then they bought me a keyboard for that Christmas, and the rest is history. So of course, growing up in Detroit, around all those musical people, it was just natural to gravitate. Once I knew I could actually I had the gift, it was natural to gravitate toward that. So, I mean, it was like natural.
So I think that's an interesting statement that you said, which kind of leads me to my next question. Being in Detroit, who are some of the people that influenced you as a musician?
I was from Romulus, so I was close to Inkster, so that left me with Michael Brooks and his father. They were like my first, I would say, people that were known. And I was listening to Michael Brooks, and so then, of course, I would listen to Commission. They were hot when I was young, so in the 80s. Commission, and so Michael Brooks was like the hero when I was little, and then once I got about 12, when I started like really getting into it, Keith Johnson, he was administrator for Great Faith Ministries at the time. He was Matty Moss Clark, Dr. Matty Moss Clark's administrator for the choir, and he would take me down to the conservatory while he was conducting business. I was just because I love Twinkie, and so I didn't have the money to pay for the lessons and stuff like this, and do you know that Twinkie Clark, which is why she's my hero today, she would let me sit outside her door. Like I would sit like outside the door while she was in there teaching. And I could hear her teaching. And that's how my ear got so good, because I would have to retain it without actually doing it. And so those were my two main influences, like growing up. And then of course I got, so then I got with Fred Hammond came to Great Faith as a psalmist one Sunday. I think it was like 93 or 4. And we flowed when, my church was flowing, so we didn't really do a lot of people. So he came and he was the guest psalmist. So we flowed with him after the service. And when he sang, and then after the service, he asked me and Larry Tucker. I know you know Larry Tucker. We came into the little studio and hung out with him. And that was like when I saw the studio and Fred Hammond in the studio and commissions in there recording. They was recording Dare to Believe that day. And I was like, this is what I want to do. So
Wow.
that was, yeah. So that was how I really like got into it. Like, okay, I'm about to do this for real.
Wow. That history is so great of your growing up in the Detroit area, to be around a Fred Hammond, to be around a Twinkie. I mean, those are legends in themselves.
Yes.
You're a producer, a songwriter, and arranger. How did you know that that's something you wanted to do besides just being a church musician?
Because I always desired more, and that's something that you can't teach people. It's either you have it or you don't, and that's not an arrogant statement. It's a true statement, because some people try to force you into doing things that you're not capable of doing, or you don't have the capacity to do even. And so I know that some of us are gifted in certain ways, and yes, we have our certain areas that we're great in. So I'm not necessarily known as a great artist per se, as I'm known as more of a great producer, because I didn't like. Okay, you got to pick one. I'm saying like, so for me, I can do it all. So I don't say that again arrogantly. I'm saying like, so for me, I'm pretty good at all of it. So I can't say, well, he's a great keyboard player, but he can't do parts. I never wanted to be that. I wanted to be able to teach the choir. I wanted to be able to make myself valuable to the kingdom. Not so much in a monetary way, but to act. Bishop Jake wrote the book, "What Maximize the Moment," and so to maximize your gifts and maximize what God has given you, then you have to sow into that. So I believe that from day one, that hey, I can do this and teach the choir and all that kind of stuff. So it just started from day one.
So here's another question: who is on your bucket list? An artist that you would love to work with that you haven't worked with?
Somebody just asked me this question. I did an interview earlier, and saying this is so funny. So I'm gonna speak this into existence because this is the same question today. It's the same day. It either would be Kurt Franklin or John B. Key, and it's not one of the other, because one A and one B, they're both the same to me, because they're not just because they're legends, but because they're unique in their own way. So like I did the Kurt Franklin challenge a couple of weeks ago with the all things, and I did that just to hear. It was just, of course, everybody got a story to tell, but I also did it because I wanted to hear myself on the track with him. You know what I'm saying? So my whole thing is because that's one of those things where you just want to work with the greats. And John B. Key, Pastor John B. Key, the reason why is if you go from day one, his music has been timeless in the sense of he never misses. Like when he gets on the groove, it don't matter if it's a youth choir, a mass choir, a older choir, a convention. You can put a John B. Key song and go. And so I would love to be on the track like that. Like it's just universal. You know what I'm saying? And that's kind of why I love those two both.
Well, we know E.J. Lee loved the groove. We know that already.
Yes, sir.
Let's kind of switch gears a little bit. You're a father also. How many kids?
Yes. 4.
How many?
4 children.
4 kids.
Yep.
Talk about some of the values your parents taught you that you're teaching your kids.
To be very transparent, I grew up in a 2-parent home, and my children were born, not all of them, but a couple of them were born outside of that traditional mindset. So I think the value that it taught me was to never don't beat yourself up for your mistakes, in the sense of having children out of what we call wedlock, but just to pick up where you can. And my parents have always taught me, no matter what, get up, dust yourself off and keep going. So what I tried to show them is perseverance and pressing forward, and never to give up on you. Because at the end of the day, people can talk about you, they can run you down, they can do all kinds of things. But if you don't ever give up on you, it really doesn't matter what they think or say, really. So that's what I've tried to give them, is that work ethic to keep moving forward.
You mentioned the Kirk Franklin challenge. So it was going to be a part of one of my questions. So, and I told you that up front. So one of the things that when I listened to what you did, you talked about, and I'm quoting, new life, new love. How important is it to you to have love in your life to give you balance to what you do?
we sometimes, not everyone, but sometimes we get so busy living and trying to achieve and trying to get ahead, and that we forget to actually live for real. I mean, when I say live for real, I'm saying, we just exist. I don't know, are you living or are you existing? And so
Mhm.
I believe that some of us are existing in our calls, we're existing in what we do, we're existing on our jobs, but are you living your life? Meaning, do you have the completeness of what love will bring, when it's in the right context, so do you have the balance of what a family even will bring when it's in the context? Because think about this now, we can be happy single for sure. I mean, hey, I've done it. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, I think as a man, for me, I'm going to speak for me. I value having what I saw my mom and dad have. Even from when my dad passed in 2013, but they met at in high school, of course, and they were married all the way. And I know that
Mhm.
these days it may not happen like that, so I'm not in a fantasy world. But what I'm saying, I still saw it. You can't unsee what you saw. So I
Right.
saw them go through their challenges and all the stuff, and even through their struggles. At the end of the day, when my dad passed and it was time to close that casket, guess who was standing right there? It was my mom. She's the
Mhm.
one that put, how they do the thing, the little ceremony at the end. And so for me, it's all about what my family and I are extremely close. So it has to. I like the completeness of what love brings.
Wow. I think you bring up another great point about, especially for creatives.
Hmm.
In this generation, in this time, we're always what's next versus
Yes,
stopping to enjoy what's happening right now and enjoy the moment. How
exactly.
do you, I won't say force yourself, but how do you put yourself in a position to stop and enjoy the moment, to stop and enjoy the love, stop and enjoy the family? As a creative, talk about how you stop.
Well, see, to be again, transparency is just what it is when it comes to 2023. We can't help people when we act like everything is just fine. It comes from mistakes. It comes from making the same mistake over and over again. So even in my previous marriage, um, I would be busy all day, all the time. And at the end of the day, even in my situation was maybe unique because she actually sang too, but two different genres, and it's not that we weren't competing against each other, but it was just, she had more balance than I did when it came to work. And it goes back to what I just said a minute ago about finding the existing or living. So I existed in my marriage, I existed in being a dope musician and all that, what people would say, what we think we are. But you lose at life sometimes when you do not stop and you begin to lose things. Is what I'm saying. You may lose a marriage, you may lose a relationship, you may lose a contract here or there, or a job, because you won't stop to actually enjoy and sow into what you're trying to do. You can't.
Mm,
Of course, this is a cliche, but it's true. You can't go to a bank and write out a withdrawal slip for $100 if you haven't put $100 in there. So
right.
when we go to come back home off the road, or we come back home from the studio, and we come back home from our gigs, and they ain't studying us because we ain't really sold into them all week. So I feel like you need to have that completeness.
In the business world, they call it work-life balance.
Yeah, there
And
you go.
as I've gotten older, I'm understanding that we have to not only have work-life balance, but we have to have church life balance.
Oh
Uh,
yes, most definitely.
because we can so easily get caught up in the work of the church that we don't have balance.
Yes.
As a musician, can you speak to other musicians that may hear this about the importance of having the church life balance, the musician life balance? Kind of talk about that a little bit.
And I know I may step on toes, but I just my personality is just what it is. I don't I don't sugarcoat much. When you're good at what you do, let's just be honest. It ain't got to even be do with church. But when you're good at your job or your profession, or maybe you're the only one that will do that particular job, they're not gonna fire you for the most part. And what I mean by that is they're not gonna tell you not to come. They're not gonna tell you you're doing too much. They're not gonna tell you, hey man, you need to go on vacation. So what happens is we get caught up again on the job, the activities, the workload, that we just get engulfed in it. And that was one of the things even in my own home growing up with my mom and dad. He was not really in church. My mom was, so I would hear them, hear the conversations about like, well, why are you going to that? Why? And so again, the Bible said, "What you join yourself to, you become a part of." So when you join yourself into a relationship or whatever you're doing, that's a part of your life. So now you have to include everything else that into that situation. So what happens is we go to these churches and these wonderful places of worship, and we give our all, but at home we lose because
Right.
you got to have a balance. it has to be something that you're doing together. You're walking together. The Bible says what? How can two walk together unless they agree?
Yes, they
That's
agree.
not just a cliche. It's a it's a real thing. You have to be going the same way. You have to be wanting the same things. You have to be pursuing the same goals. If not, you go in two different directions. And so I think that's what we have to learn by trial and error for the most part. But when you know better, you do better. So once you find out that, hey, this may not be working for me, I might need to change the way that I'm approaching the situation.
Man, that is awesome. So deep. I love talking to you because we always have these deep conversations. We go out to eat,
No,
we gonna get deep.
yes, yes, sir. Hey, I love it, man. I love
So
it.
when I got ready to record,
Mhm,
you were one of the first people that I called because I wanted you to do some vocal arrangements on some of my songs.
mhm.
You did Restore More for me and my first single, Great Rain.
Yes.
I remember when you came into rehearsal and you started teaching the parts, the singers were looking like, what is he doing? We can't do
Right.
all that. You have a unique way of arranging vocals
Yes.
to make them pop, to make them have life.
Mhm.
Talk about how you grew that talent to where your vocals can just be kind of doing some crazy stuff that make the singers like, okay, I got to go home and study this.
Well, okay, so it's two parts of this. The one part is just naturally being different as it relates to my musical approach. I listen to everything, and sometimes I think people discount the everything part of that. And what I mean is, I listen to rock, I listen to pop, I listen to classical, and when you have all those ideas in your head, you may seem a little cuckoo, but when it's a method to the madness. So for me, it merges into part two. So part two is I never had formal training, so I don't know that note don't go with that note. I don't know that time signature don't go. I don't that's foreign to me. Just like people that read music, when you try to go off the script a little bit, they like, well, no, that's supposed to be on the beat, and you think like, no, it's syncopated. You know what I'm saying? Like, what's syncopation? We don't practice. What's the time signature? You know what I'm saying? So it's a battle. So sometimes I always laugh because I don't know no better, and I know it sounds weird, but I don't. I'm just
You don't
like,
know no better.
no, hey, if I want that A flat to go to the C right there and to the D, I'm just gonna do it, and that's just how it goes. I don't know.
Wow. I, I feel for the singers then, because you may decide you want to go from one octave to another octave, then change key
All
three
the
times
time.
and come back.
When I had Spirit of David, no, they used to have me crack it up because they used to say, Founder, you think you got two groups? Because I would be having them going from one extreme to the other one. Like, how are we supposed to get there to there? And I'm like, well, y'all can do it, just do it. And so, it's always been that way. I've always just been forward thinking musically.
So you mentioned Spirit of David. Let's talk
Mhm.
a little bit more about your musical journey.
Okay.
What was the first song you wrote that you recorded?
The first song that I wrote that I recorded was Victory in Jesus' Name. Logic Meets Murray Jones.
Ooh, Elijah
Uh,
Meese. She
uh-huh.
ain't no joke.
Yeah. So that was, of course, that's on the project that I did, but that was the first one that I had written. So you said in context of what you said, that's the first one that I remember writing that I actually recorded. It was Victory in Jesus' Name. Yeah. And
So
and if you think about it, I'm sorry, but if you think about it, the vocals on that song is weird too.
so let's talk about your growth from that first song to where you are now. Talk about what that growth means to you and what has happened during that time.
You go through life and you learn what works, what doesn't work. You learn who to listen to, when to listen to them. And I'm not talking just musically, I'm saying just in advice and them encourage you to be yourself. And I think as you mature, your sound and your craft and your gifting must and it should mature right along with you. So I think now, being the young firebrand, all in your face kind of guy that I was back then, now I'm more chilled. I'm more, they come to me kind of orchestrate, see how it really should work. And I think that that's a part of your journey. Life is a journey, and I think we say this stuff as cliches, and we believe it sometimes, and sometimes we don't. But it really actually is a journey. And when you're on your journey, you're learning. You're
Right.
seeing how it goes, how not to do this, what to do here, and just, should I release this song in this season or not? Those things are you can't discount that. And I think now I'm just more aware of where I am in life and what should I be doing. I'm not, I can't. I'm not trying, and I'm in good shape, but I'm not supposed to be out there jumping around. I mean, that ain't what I'm supposed to do. You have to stay in what you do. I'm not gonna just all of a sudden now I'm about to be a solo singer. I've never been a solo singer. It's like, so you have to stay true to who you are.
Let's talk about the new single, "Victory
Okay.
Is Mine," featuring
Yeah.
Pastor Gerard Brooks.
Yeah.
One thing I love is that Ely groove, that groove always. Talk about the story behind "Victory Is Mine."
Well, I'm a '70s baby, and I grew up listening to a lot of the funkadelic, a lot of the Ohio players. So when I'm writing music, I used to have a saying when my group was out. The groove might be grooving, but we still gonna be saying something. And I think that's the approach that I used on this song. It's like I wanted to groove, I wanted to feel good, but I also wanted to have a message. And so
Mm,
going through certain challenges, again, I mentioned my previous situation of marriage wise, just going through divorce and some of the things that happened afterwards. It's just it causes you to really question where you are in life. Question, when you're human. So you can feel like you're on the mountain today, but you might be in the valley tomorrow. And we again going back to another church cliche. You have to encourage yourself. And so I was at a point when I wrote the song that I needed to tell myself. I had to call those. Of course, God is the only one that can call those things that are not as though they were. But I had to practice that. What he says in the Word. I had to say it even if I didn't feel it. So I had to say that I had the victory even if I didn't think I did. I had to say I had the victory even if I couldn't see it, even if I couldn't sense it. So victory is mine for me is a declaration of I might have failed. I might have had this happen, but victory is still mine no matter what. Because God, you can't lose. Even if you detour, even if you get swallowed up with a fish, even if
mm,
you go, even if you get at the Red Sea, something that God is going to do in that moment is going to show you that He's still with you, and that's just what it is. You can't. People can get mad at you. They can run your name down. They can do all kind of stuff. But when you got God on your side, that right there is not a cliche. That's the truth. If God be for you, He'll make your enemies what? They'll be at peace with you. Again, people that love you. People that know you, and so you don't have to always fight a battle with words. You have to fight a battle with your faith. You have to fight a battle with your gift. You have to fight a battle with your pen if you're a songwriter, with your musicianship if you're a musician. And so my declaration of victory is not arrogant. It's to myself first. That
right.
victory is mine. And then what? We overcome by the words of our testimony. So now that I got victory, now when you listen to it, then you got victory because now you agreeing with me. And you can I feel like I'm preaching, Doc. Come on and take that offer.
Dun, 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 dun. All right. Here's a question that's totally off.
Okay.
If you could time travel, would you
Mhm.
rather visit the past or visit the future?
Now am I time traveling to change things or to just see? Or am I a spectator or participator? That's what I'm saying.
I'm just asking the question. However you want to answer it.
Ooh, man. I would go back. Because the future is exciting when you don't overthink it.
Mhm.
But see, when you think about the past, it's like you want to fix things, you want to understand things. I would try to go back and understand some of the mistakes. You're not even talking about even like just musically. Like why did James Cleveland write the way he did? Why did Mahalia Jackson sing the way she did? Why were they so effective at what they did during their time? Was it just the music, or did they mix the music with ministry with the social things that were going on at the time? It's like today's athlete. Like LeBron James is different than Jordan based on not so much basketball, but because he's more involved socially. So
Right.
he learned from the past to say, hey, I can be a great athlete and have all these followers, but let me do something now that will take me to the future. So I would like to go back.
Cool. Man, I have really enjoyed this conversation with you.
Yes,
You
me
know,
too.
you're my friend, you're my brother, you're my
Yes,
nephew, and I
yes.
appreciate you. Tell people how they can follow you on social media.
On Facebook, I'm EJ Wooden. On Instagram, EJ Lee Music. My website is ernestjleemusic.org. That's ernestjleemusic.org. On TikTok, Ernest J Lee Music. On Twitter, Ernest J Lee. Follow me. Let's connect. Let's do what we do.
And how can they get your music?
Music is available everywhere. Digital music is streamed or sold. And I just want to give a shout out to you for this opportunity that you gave me with this get this song out a little further than I could have did it on my own as far as the distribution piece. Want to thank you for that. So it's on all digital music platforms. Ernest J. Lee featuring Gerard Brooks. Victory is mine. and I want to put a plug in for you too. Me and Unc getting ready to do some funk too. We about to bring
We
some funk
we
back to
go
the D.
we
Y'all
go
be
funk
tuned for
it
that.
up. We go funk it up.
Yeah, we get ready to do. We go take it back one more time and decent. It's still more left
Yeah.
in the tank, Doc. We
Long
got
as
to
I
do
can
some
do the
more of this
robot, I'm happy. Man, it has been such a pleasure talking to you. We
Yes.
have about 10, 15 seconds left. Final word from you.
Everyone, when there is no greater person to be other than yourself, find your purpose. Find your purpose in what God has given you, and when you find your purpose and find your sound, everything has a sound. He that has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit is saying. It's talking to you first. Your sound is what's going to bring you deliverance. Is what's going to bring you victory. So find your sound.
Once again, everybody, give it up for my nephew, Ernest J. Lee. I am Carl B. Phillips, Uncle Carl. Just again, want to remind you to work like you don't need the money, love like you never been hurt, and dance like no one's watching you. God bless until we meet again.
The Carl B. Phillips Show.
Thank you for listening to the Carl B. Phillips Show. For more information, go to carlbphillips.com.
The Carl B. Phillips Show.
Follow Carl B. Phillips on Instagram so we can stay in contact with each other.